In fretboard logic chord variations, we've covered triads before, and also mentioned common seventh chords and suspended chords. We've also gone over basic interval concepts such as major thirds, major seconds, and perfect fourths. Now let's use this diagram to learn about other intervals. Now look at the interval distance relationship between each key scale and the root note. We'll use this diagram to understand other intervals. First, any note can be placed at the R position, which is the root note. If the distance is to half steps, it's called a major second. 1/2 step is called a minor second. 2 whole steps make a major third. 2 whole steps plus 1/2 step make a perfect fourth, which contains 5 half steps in total. Adding further, 3 whole steps plus 1/2 step make a perfect fifth. 4 whole steps plus 1/2 step make a major sixth. 5 whole steps plus 1/2 step make a major seventh. 6 whole steps make a perfect octave. This way, we understand the relationship between each note and the root note. First, chords are stacked upward as root note, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and 13th. As we can see, the 9th is actually the 2nd degree of the scale. The 11th is the 4th degree. The 13th is the 6th degree. For example, the note C. What is its minor third? It's C, D, E flat, meaning the interval from C to E flat is a minor third. The interval from C to E is a major third. C to F is a perfect fourth. C to F sharp is an augmented fourth. C to G flat is a diminished fifth, i.e. a flattened fifth. The root note 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and 13th are added upward following the rule of skipping one letter, adding one, skipping one, adding one, and so on. In terms of note names, you must skip one letter each time. Root note 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, 13th. Taking C as the root, this sequence is C, E, G, B, D, F, A. If F is the root, the sequence is F, A, C, E, G, B flat, D. All sequences must be calculated in this order, and then we check the whole step and half step relationships between the notes. Some note pairs may not naturally form intervals like major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, or major seventh. Some are naturally minor thirds. For example, the interval from D to F contains 1 whole step and 1/2 step, so it's a minor third. There are also cases like F to B. F to G is a whole step, G to A is a whole step, and A to B is another whole step. This fits the interval from root to sharp fourth, containing 3 whole steps, so it's called an augmented fourth. If you're interested in the interval between any two specific notes, you can calculate it using this chart. Only after understanding intervals can we know which notes to add to a chord to turn it into other types of chords. Now let's look down. The 5-caged chord shapes have two different chord note arrangements from low to high. From low to high means arranging notes from the lower strings to the higher strings. G chords and C chords follow one arrangement. Root, 3rd, 5th, root, 3rd, root. Specifically, a G chord is root 3rd, 5th, root 3rd, root. A C chord starts from the 5th string, so it lacks the topmost root note, resulting in root 3rd, 5th, root 3rd. So the G and C shapes follow the pattern root 3rd, 5th, root 3rd, root. When applied to the small F shape, it follows the same pattern root 3rd, 5th, root, but with one fewer string, using for strings instead. The E, A, and D shapes follow the arrangement root 5th, root 3rd, 5th, root. Let's take the E chord. Root 5th, root 3rd, 5th, root. The A chord shape starts from the 5th string, so it lacks the highest root note, resulting in root 5th, root 3rd, 5th. Applied to the D chord shape, it loses another high note, becoming root 5th, root 3rd. So when categorizing, we group the G and C shapes together. Their chord notes follow the fixed sequence root 3rd, 5th, root 3rd, root. We group the E, A, and D shapes together. Their sequence is root 5th, root 3rd, 5th, root. Okay, let's first look at the G and C shapes. They have relatively few variations because transforming them into minor triads. Minor seventh chords or diminished chords would make the fingerings extremely difficult to press, hence fewer variations. G chord, root, third, fifth, root, third, root. Currently, this chord only contains 3 distinct notes, root, third, and fifth. For G major 7, the notes are root, third, fifth, seventh, so we need to add a major 7th note, namely F sharp. We can finger it this way or that way, resulting in the note sequence root, third, fifth, root, third, seventh. A dominant 7th chord adds a minor 7th note to a major triad. Lower the 7th note by a half step to make it a flat 7th, resulting in the sequence root, third, fifth, root, third, flat, 7th. These are the 3 chords G, G major 7th, and G7. Now, based on the original G chord, add the note A at the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. A is the 9th of G, so this becomes a G add 9 chord. We rarely play the 5th string for this chord, so we use the pad of our ring finger to mute the 5th string, preventing it from sounding. This is the G add 9 chord. A G add 9 chord is a triad with an added 9th note. If it's a G major 9th chord, the notes are root, third, fifth, seventh, 9th. Next is G suspended 4th. As we covered earlier, a suspended 4th chord replaces the 3rd with a 4th. Looking at the G chord, its notes are root, 3rd, 5th, root, 3rd, root. The 5th string plays the 3rd, and the open 2nd string also plays the 3rd. We rarely play the 5th string here, so we simply leave it unpressed. Don't play it. Then, raise the 3rd note on the open 2nd string by 1 fret to the 1st fret of the 2nd string, a 4th, resulting in this shape. This is the G suspended 4th chord. The same logic applies when moving the shape. For example, shifting it up 1 fret uniformly turns it into an accord. This is an accord, but this a major 7 is very difficult, so this shape isn't easy to vary. This is a major 7th chord, which is really hard to press. The dominant 7th, a 7, is fingered like this. The A add 9 is a bit easier. The sus for a suspended 4th is also very difficult. So it seems the G shape isn't moved around much. We don't shift it to many other fret positions. Usually, we use the E, A, and D shapes to shift positions and change chords. The G chord, C chord, and F chord in this shape are more commonly used. Next is the C shape. C chord notes are root, third, fifth, root, third. Simply lift the finger pressing the root note on the 2nd string. Lowering it by a half step turns it into a major 7th note, resulting in the sequence root, third, fifth, seventh, third. Adding this 7th note turns it into a C major 7th chord. Alright, let's press the C chord again and add a flat 7th note. The open 2nd string is already the 7th note, which can't be lowered further to a flat 7th, so we need to add the flat 7th at the 3rd fret of the 3rd string, resulting in the sequence root, third, flat, 7th, root, third. Actually, this chord no longer includes the 5th note. It's omitted, but it's still a C dominant 7th chord. This is also a C7 chord. Then we go back to the C chord. To turn the root note on the 2nd string into its 9th note, we raise it by 2 frets to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. This shape becomes root, third, fifth, 9th, third, which is a C add 9 chord. Next is C suspended 4th. It follows the same logic as G sus 4. Replace the 3rd with a 4th. We use a small barre. Then also turn the 3rd of the C chord into a 4th, resulting in this shape. The sequence becomes root 4th, 5th, root 4th, which is a C sus 4 chord. We'll cover the common altered note positions in the 5 shapes at the end. First, let's look at the back and finish explaining the E, A, and D shapes. As mentioned earlier, these three shapes have relatively more variations. E chord. Turn the root note on the 4th string into a 7th note to make E major 7th. Lift the finger from the 4th string to turn it into a flat 7th note, resulting in E dominant 7th. Alright, back to the E chord, then add a 6th note to the 2nd string. The open 2nd string is originally the 5th note. Add a major 2nd, raise it by 2 frets to the 2nd fret of the 2nd string, resulting in an E 6th chord. For E suspended 4th, the E chord itself is root 5th, root 3rd, 5th root, and this chord has only 1/3 note at the 1st fret of the 4th string. Now raise the 1st fret of the 4th string to the 2nd fret of the 4th string. This is an E sus for chord. Continuing to modify the 3rd note, lower the 3rd note on the 3rd string by a half step to the open 3rd string, a flat 3rd, resulting in an M, E minor, chord with notes root flat 3rd 5th. Then lower the root note on the 4th string by a whole step to make a flat 7th note. This becomes an E minor 7th chord. Add a 6th note to the M chord. This becomes an E minor 6th chord. Add a 9th note at the 4th fret of the 4th string to the E chord. This is a nice sounding chord, specifically an E add 9th chord using the notes root 3rd, 5th, 9th. Okay, next is the A shape. The notes are root 5th, root 3rd, 5th. This is an A chord. Turn the root note on the 3rd string into a 7th note at the 1st fret of the 3rd string, lower by a half step. This is a major 7th, with notes root 5th, 7th, 3rd, 5th. Lower it by another half step to make a dominant 7th. The 3rd string now plays a flat 7th note. Now back to the A chord, raise the 5th note on the open 1st string by a whole step to make a 6th note. This is a nice sounding A major 6th chord, with notes root 5th, root 3rd, 6th. This chord also has only 1/3 note, located on the 2nd string. Turn the 3rd note on the 2nd string into a 4th note and press it with your ring finger. This becomes a suspended 4th. Alternatively, if we finger the chord with the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fingers, we can use the pinky to shape it like this. Next, turn the 3rd note of the A chord into a flat 3rd to make an A minor chord. This chord is very commonly used. Beginners basically all learn this chord. Then turn the root note on the 3rd string into an open flat 7th note, resulting in the notes root 5th, flat 7th, flat 3rd, 5th. This is a minor 7th. Then return to the M chord and add a 6th note at the 2nd fret of the 1st string, just like adding the 6th note to the major 6th chord earlier. This becomes a minor 6th. Further on, turn the 3rd note of the A chord into a 2nd note, the open 2nd string, resulting in a suspended 2nd with notes root 5th, root 2nd, 5th. These are the common fingerings for the A chord. Next is the D shape. Notes are root 5th, root 3rd. This is a D chord. Turn the root note into a 7th note to make D major 7th. Lower the 7th note by a half step to make a flat 7th, resulting in D dominant 7th. Lower it by another half step to make a 6th note, resulting in D major 6th. Back to the D chord. Raise the 3rd note by a half step to make a 4th note on the 1st string. This is a D suspended 4th chord. Back to the D chord again, lower the 3rd note by a half step to make a flat 3rd, and switch the fingering. This is a D minor chord. Then turn the root note into a 7th note, resulting in the notes root 5th flat 7th flat 3rd. This is a D minor 7th chord. Lower the flat 7th note by another half step and use this fingering. This is a D minor 6th chord. Turn the 3rd note into a 2nd note using the open string. This becomes D suspended 2nd. The E, A, and D shapes can all be shifted along the neck to get different chords. For example, the E chord E major 7. Can we shift the shape the same way to get F major 7? Then G major 7. Then G7. Then G6. This requires a small barre. Then sus4. Then G minor. G minor 7. Then G minor 6. G major 9th. It's quite hard to press, but all these shapes can be shifted along the neck. This applies to other chords too. Shifting the D chord up to frets turns it into an E chord. Then E major 7. Then lower it to get E7. Lower again to get E6. Raise the 3rd to get E sus4. Then E minor. E minor 7. E minor 6. And E sus2. All our shapes can be shifted on the fretboard. Only the G and C shapes have fewer variations as they're too hard to press. So we have fewer options for them. Alright, now let's go back to the first page and cover the common altered note positions in the 5 shapes. First is the G shape. The red marked notes are root 3rd, 5th, root 3rd, root. This is the original position of the triad. If we turn the root note on the first string into a 7th note, major 7th, or minor 7th, dominant 7th, sus4, or add 9. These positions, 9th, 4th, 6th, flat 7th, 7th, are the ones we need to pay more attention to. C shape. The notes 4th, 6th, flat 7th, 7th, 4th are commonly used positions for chord variations. For example, in sus for chords, dominant 7th chords, and major 7th chords. Next is the E shape. Root 5th, root 3rd, 5th, root. Common altered notes are on the 4th string. Changing the root to a 7th or flat 7th. The 3rd string, changing the 3rd to a flat 3rd or 4th. And the 9th on the 1st string, or flat 7th on the 2nd string. If we add a flat 7th note on the 2nd string to the E chord, this is actually also an E7 chord, just like adding the flat 7th note on the open 4th string. Both are E7 chords. Next is the A shape. Root 5th, root 3rd, 5th. Similarly, common altered notes include the root on the 3rd string, changed to 7th or flat 7th, the 3rd flat 3rd second, 4th on the 2nd string, and the 6th flat 7th on the 1st string. Adding a flat 7th note on the 3rd string to a major triad makes it a dominant 7th chord. Adding a 2nd note on the 3rd string makes it an add 9. Adding a flat 3rd on the 3rd string makes it a minor triad. Adding a 4th on the 3rd string makes it a sus4. Adding a 6th on the 1st string makes it a major 6th. Adding a flat 7th on the 1st string makes it a dominant 7th. This follows the same logic as the E chord earlier. Adding a flat 7th on the 3rd string makes a dominant 7th chord, and adding a flat 7th on the 1st string also makes a dominant 7th chord. Next is the D shape. Root, 5th, root, 3rd. Note that common alterations here include changing the root on the 2nd string to a 7th, flat 7th or 6th, and changing the 3rd on the 1st string to a flat 3rd, 9th, or raising it by 1 fret to make a 4th. The D chord can be changed to D major 7th, D dominant 7th, D major 6th. Then altering the 1st string turns it into D minor, D sus2, or D sus4. Alright, this covers the content on chord variations. You can review this more. Pay attention to how the notes change in each shape. In fact, each shape has only 1 or 2 3rd or 5th notes, and by altering these to notes we can get other types of chords.